Good afternoon and welcome to NASA's Johnson Space Center and the Expedition 62-63 Crew News Conference. We are joined by the Expedition 62-63 crew, Chris Cassidy from NASA, as well as Nikolai, Tikhonov, and Andrei Babkin from Roscosmos. They're getting ready for their launch in April, but they're taking some time out of all their training to talk with us today. So we're going to be taking questions a little while later, but first we're going to let them each introduce themselves, and we will start with Chris.
Yeah, Brandy, great to be with you today, and super exciting for the three of us to be here. Obviously, I'm Chris Cassidy, and proud member of NASA. This will be my third space flight, and really looking forward to sharing that experience with my two colleagues.
Great.
Hello, and for me it's a pleasant time to be here today. So this is our first flight, and we are excited. We are waiting for this. We were trained well for a long time. And for me, it's part of my dream from the childhood. So I visited Earth Technical Laboratory, Radio and Aerospace Modeling Laboratory in my hometown. And so since that time, I got this dream to reach space and perform these space explorations. So thanks.
Great. Andrei?
I also glad to be there, this place, and with my crew, with you, and this is my way to first space flight turned out little bit longer than other crew members, and I also have a dream, and my dream of becoming a cosmonaut, and I've carried this dream still my childhood, and through my service in the army, and later on when I was working as an engineer and a scientist at Rocket Space Corporation. It's
All right.
a real situation.
Great, thank you. Short and sweet, so we can jump right into questions. We are going to start with questions here in the room, but if you're joining us via phone, you can let us know you have a question by pressing *1. If your question gets answered, you can press *2 to withdraw it. And then we'll also be taking questions via social media. You can use the hashtag #AskNASA on social media to let us know you have a question, and we will do our best to get a few of those in before the end of the hour. But again, we'll start here in the room with Robert Perlman from Collect Space.
Hi, Robert Perlman with Collect Space. I believe you're going to be the fourth crew in history to launch from Site 31-6, the first since 2016, and the first to launch on the Soyuz 2.1A booster. Can you talk a little bit what that means in terms of for your crew specifically? Are there changes to the pad operations? Are there changes to how the Soyuz interacts with the booster? Are there differences in your training versus crews that would have launched off of Gagarin's start?
I think this is best for our Soyuz commander.
Okay, so what can I say? From our point of view, it's we have really few changes because new rocket means new technical system in this rocket, but for the spacecraft, it's not many changes. And this is the task for technicians, for the personnel who work on the launch pad. But for us, the training flow is, in Russia, it's almost the same. I mean, training together to have some training how to operate, how to work as a team in case of some anomalous situations, how to avoid these anomalous situations. And for us, it's really just normal training, and we don't see changes compared with previous rocket style. Yeah, so for us, it's not.
Mark Carreau from Aviation Week.
Yeah, thank you, Mark Carreau from Aviation Week. What kind of launch profile to the station will you have? I know you've got some options, and I wonder if you'll use the most rapid or an intermediate or a longer term, or do you know yet? And maybe you can just say what you've trained for.
I don't think we've really been given the specific information about what type of launch profile we'll have. Have you had any insight into this?
We have just, so our training flow, as I said before, we have a normal training, so we are ready for different styles. 2 days or 4 orbits as it was happened last launch. So for us, it's not, we don't have this information. It's more the question for ballistics. So we will wait and we will see. Actually, we will know before launch.
We have a few more training sessions in Star City before launch, and we'll gather more information as we get closer. But right now, we don't have anything different.
All right. Got a question here from Sophie Sanchez.
Hi, Sophie Sanchez, Cosmic Chicago with Chicago Now. Given that, Chris, you've just joined the crew, what has it been like for you guys so far training together? Because I know we have 2 first flights and then an experienced one. Can you share a little bit about how you guys have been getting along together, and then what you're looking forward to in the next coming months before your launch?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is an interesting time because the astronaut and cosmonaut communities is very small and tight-knit. So even though we are formally together for just a very short period of time, we've known each other for several years, and our families have dined together in both countries. So there's a familiarity there that's rooted in friendship. And this is important, really helpful, I guess, as we come together in a late manner, 6 months from flight, which is not really typical, as your question suggests, that we begin training as a crew this way. But for us, I don't think we've missed a heartbeat. We got together, and it was more of a question of when our schedules would be in sync with each other. And now we're off and running and ready for the next 5 months together as we prepare. But really, seamless.
I have one comment. So it's the first time I met Chris in 2011, I suppose, when you had training in expedition 35-36. Yeah. So I was representative DOH here in Houston. So, and this is the long time when we know each other. So, and for us, it's really. How to say, it's we proud to have such experienced crew member in our crew, because we know that Chris will help us with some nuances in space, and because he is well known, well trained and experienced guy.
Has he given you any good advice so far?
Already, yes. But that's our secret.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. Do we have any questions over here in the room? If not, we'll go to get one over here, if we can get a microphone. We have some special guests joining us here today from our center operations group, some of the people who keep us going here at Johnson Space Center.
Mr. Chris, with Veterans Day approaching, I wonder if you could speak to how your service, both as a Navy SEAL and overseas in Afghanistan, prepared you to continue your service with the government as an astronaut?
Oh, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking that, particularly, like you said, as we approach Veterans Day, and appreciate the men and women around the world that fight for all their countries, and I'm proud to be one of them. And if you are too, I congratulate you. But the military training really helped me in, right from the get-go. And my background as an underwater person in the SEAL teams and doing other missions in the SEAL teams set me up for success with the initial training. Really kind of, when you're an astronaut, you have to be able to process lots of pieces of information and make decisions and execute a plan. It might not be the perfect plan, but it's a plan and you do it. And this is the same skill that is kind of learned as a young military person. So when I arrived at NASA, the operational side of it was very comfortable for me. But the training here is fantastic. And so all of us, my class, we had 11 U.S. astronauts in my class, and we have a mix of civilian and military backgrounds. And the training team here at the Johnson Space Center gets everybody right up to speed fairly quickly. But I will say that I think I had a little bit of extra help from my previous time. And then a few of the lessons I learned as a young military person were refined here as I was put in different operational situations as an astronaut, particularly when Luca and I had the leaking Luca had the leaking spacesuit with water coming into his head. That I felt, I don't want to say at home in that situation, but I didn't need to think about my actions. It was from just rehearsal and training for many years. Yeah. Semper Fi.
All right. We don't have any other questions in the room. We'll go to the phone for now. Again, if you're on the phone and you have a question, you can use *1 to let us know you have a question, and *2 if your question gets answered. But we will start with Elizabeth Howe.
Hi, this question is for Chris. Can you talk about how the spacewalk training has evolved since you were last up there? Because obviously the AMS is going to be repaired using tools that weren't even sort of imagined for that sort of a mission at the beginning. So how has the spacewalk training been sort of advancing since you've gone up there, and what kind of skills are you learning?
Right, great question. So we train obviously for spacewalks in a large pool called the Neutral Buoyancy Facility, and we spend many hours both underwater, but for each hour we spend underwater training, we have several classroom hours of preparation. That's all the same. We do the same format now as when I was a brand new guy in 2004, and then since recent developments with tools, as you suggest, with AMS have come along. I was fortunate enough to be involved with the development of the AMS spacewalks. I'm really excited to see those be executed next week with Drew and Luca kicking the first one off on Friday, I think, right? The 15th?
The 15th.
15th is the plan. But much like Hubble space repair was a few years ago, AMS EVA repair has required new tools to be developed to do some really, really unique repair. Like imagine going into your car, opening the hood of your car, and have to remove the starter engine with big hockey gloves on, and you don't have you can't fit your hands on the bolts. We had to design tools that would allow big bulky gloves to reach down into these really hard to get places and turn bolts and connectors without getting into too much detail. And it was really fun to see the engineers think of these ideas and then turn it into a piece of a mechanical thing that we could then practice on. So in general, I'm getting long-winded here because I really like spacewalks, you can tell. But in general, the training really hasn't changed. We've added a few tools to our inventory, but really those tools are very specific to the AMS. And like Nikolai and I haven't used any of those unique tools in our preparation. We're training for just sort of generic tasks that may occur, malfunctions that may occur on the space station. So hopefully that answered your question.
We actually have several questions coming in from social media that are about spacewalks, so it'll be a good subject for you guys. We have one from Super Grover, who's mentioning that some of the cosmonauts have trained in the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory now using the U.S. spacesuits. So they were wondering how those are different than the Russian spacesuits.
So this is the really popular question, you know. When we started this training, I've got many questions like, now you can compare Russian spacesuit and the US spacesuit, so, and what is the difference? Actually, this question was not about difference, like what is better? So, and I was thinking for a long time how to answer this question, because for me it is a unique experience, and I can say that I'm really glad to have this training, because EVA, extravehicular activity, this is how Andrei said, it's the top task for all cosmonauts, so and astronauts also. And actually, we worked in a department and performed these procedures for EVA, Russian EVA, and we tested tools, new operations outside before cosmonauts started their training for these operations. And I had some experience before the cosmonaut corps. Also, I got some experience when I was selected. And here, for me, this is unique training and unique experience helped me just understand that some years ago we choose maybe different ways, different style of the spacesuits, and probably I hope in future we will get one like united, combined spacesuit, which takes pluses from each other. Because I enjoyed the mobility and flexibility of EMU, but I think Chris agreed with me that to don this suit, it's like a long dance and a hard task. You know? It is really. It's a really hard process. Yeah. So in Orlan suit, you just open the door, get inside, and start to work. Yeah. So, but there are some limitations in this suit. So, you know, I cannot say which is better. I can say that we have pluses in each suit, and I hope in future, especially if we are thinking about working on another planet, on the surface of other planets, Moon or Mars. We need to have something new, and our work, our training, and our, how to say, participation, and Roscosmos and NASA and ESA and all other partners, JAXA, Canada Space Agency. So I think we will develop something new really soon, and probably we will see this actually on board the International Space Station. But definitely for the deep space exploration, we will get some new spacesuits, some new tools, and all other things which we need. And in this case, our work together, it's really helpful and grateful and enjoyable for us.
Okay. Great. Well, and actually, another question on the subject is from Gary, wanting to know if you expect to do any spacewalks during your missions.
Yeah, so that's a question that we're very excited to know the answer to. We're in an interesting time on our particular increment, our expedition, in that the uncertainty of the scheduling of when the Boeing and SpaceX crews will arrive. So we don't know how long will it be just the three of us. And in the instance where it's just the three of us on the space station, I kind of doubt that they'll plan a normal planned spacewalk. If it's an emergency, a situation that requires a repair, then we're prepared and ready to go. Andrei's an expert robotic arm operator, and the two of us have been in the pool many times, and in fact, tomorrow we do another NBL run. But so we're prepared to do a spacewalk if it's just the three of us. Mm-hmm. If we are fortunate enough to have some visitors from the Boeing crew or the SpaceX crew, then maybe our chances go up a little bit of having a spacewalk be conducted. But reality is, this is a situation that every astronaut wants to know before they launch: is how many spacewalks will we have? And we don't know.
We'll keep our fingers crossed for you, for sure.
Keep our fingers crossed. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
One small comment. It's about our critical contingency EVA. Yeah, so we want to perform spacewalk, but we don't want to break something on the station, so to have something broken. So for us, it means like if we have spacewalk, so something broken on the space station. So it's two parts opposite.
Good point. So something minor to fix, maybe. Well, from Taylor, we have a question, and reminder that you can keep sending them in using the hashtag AskNASA. But Taylor wants to know, what kind of experiments will you be doing, and how also will it help us get to the moon and Mars?
Wow, good question from Taylor. So we have many experiments going on board of the space station at all the time. And right now, I couldn't answer to Taylor and tell her or him how many, specifically which ones we have. We're trained on all the equipment that we use to conduct experiments, and these guys as well, with all of the U.S. payload equipment. We're trained and prepared to do them. How will that help us get to the moon and Mars? That's largely has to do with the environmental control system, where we're recycling water, our oxygen generation and capabilities like this. We're really refining that on the space station, and those technologies we'll use to have safe crews on Mars and the moon. But the specific biological and scientific experiments, we don't really know the exact ones that we'll have right now.
All right, great.
We have a lot of joint researches. So, for example, after this session, when it's finished here in Houston, Chris and I actually, we will be in Germany, in Cologne, to have some special session with European scientists to train how to operate some equipment for the special research in space. And also, Russian Space Agency has many specific researchers for cosmonaut body and biology. So we have a lot of work on board the space station.
In my opinion, the most important or maybe valuable part of that create crew more successful and more effectivity and scientists research also, I think, is each crew member's personality. And this personality different, but it maybe looks like complementary us. And that's why when we return from space and we have some unique skills and spaceflight experience, and this experience will be advance future space exploration.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe y'all can talk a little bit about how your own personalities mix together for a good crew. Can you give us the inside dirt on who does what with this crew?
Yeah, we actually had a funny moment yesterday in the virtual reality laboratory, which is, you've been there, I know, Brandy, but just for the folks out there to describe the scene, Nikolai and I had goggles on and these gloves and mittens, and we were pretending to be spacewalkers, and Andrei was in another section of the room with working the robotic arm, and I asked these guys, how do you say clearance in Russian? Because we were monitoring how much space between the robotic arm and the thing. And they told me one word, and then another word, I thought, and that was clearance, like clearance for sale items, not clearance between structure. And then we kind of digressed and had some personal, internal crew humor about, oh, Andrei really likes sale items. And he kept a perfectly straight face on his radio because there's many instructors in the room, and he said, guys, I'm very busy here. You know, knock it off. You know, not so, but you know, that's the kind of fun that you have when you're in training. You get to know each other really well, and you can have fun times like that, even in the very serious moment where we're preparing for a robotic spacewalk.
And we know who's getting the good grade for that session, right?
Yes. Yes.
Would better if I switch to Russian to answer. Chris обладает уникальными свойствами, не только характера, но и профессиональными. Поэтому я хотел бы заострить внимание на том, что это сплав всех качеств, человеческих и профессиональных. И тогда экипаж получается по-своему уникальным, и отдача от него уникальная.
I would like to answer in Russian this one because, well, Chris, he has really unique qualities both on a personal level and on a professional level. And it's a sort of an alloy of all of these qualities that meld together to create a unique person and a unique crew. And this is why you have such a positive return when you have this unique combination of qualities.
Great.
And sense of humor helps us a lot.
Yeah.
I remember this training, water survival training, and our doctors told us, like, guys, we are expected, you had a hard work, but it looked like you just had a fun. So sitting there and laughed a lot, you know, so we had a lot of joke, sitting in a small capsule, changing our clothes for this water survival training, pretty hard training, but sense of humor helped us a lot, and I'm really glad to work with these guys. So, because we have some unique points, and we can catch each other for their nuances, and so it helps us to relax, to avoid the stress or maybe some conflict situations. So it's great.
You're going to be spending a lot of time together in close proximity, so good that it's working out that way. All right, we have some more questions. I think you guys talking about Spacewalks brought in some more questions about that. So from Sarah, who is asking on behalf of her class, wants to know, what is it you personally focus on most during preparations for Spacewalks?
Yeah, so that's an interesting answer in two parts. One is before you launch, and that's just kind of being prepared for as many situations as you can, you know, broad training. Right before you launch, you kind of narrow down that list of jobs to a reasonable expectation of things, and we really dive in to those particular pieces of equipment, put our hands on it, go to buildings where they have a unique mock-up and this type of thing. And then once you get in space, the opportunity to see the equipment is often behind you, because the equipment is on the ground or outside of the space station. And inside the space station, you just rely on pictures and reviewing the procedures. So in the aviation, there's a term called chair flying, which means you sit in a chair and you pretend like you're doing the takeoff, and then you turn and you roll. We do this exact same thing on a spacewalk. And if we do this together, you and I will sit together in the lab or somewhere comfortable and go through mentally step by step. And I found that doing that really helps you for the execution of a spacewalk. In anything you do in life, really. If you picture yourself being successful, your chances of being successful are much higher, and we do exactly that on a spacewalk.
Great. All right, and this one is from Rodney, a little bit different flavor. He wants to know, why were you selected for this mission? I don't know how easily you can answer that, but maybe you can give it a try.
Yeah.
It's our turn.
There you go.
Yeah, you wait in line and your number is called. And for me, I had been serving as the chief astronaut for a couple years, and then passed those duties over to my friend and colleague Pat Forrester, and melted back into the rotation, and kind of my name trickled to the top, waiting for seeing how seats would play out with commercial crews and Soyuzes and the AMS and all that kind of thing. So me personally, I was waiting to see how things would sort itself out. I'm super excited to be with these guys, as I mentioned earlier, but exactly how it ends up being us, you know, only the chief astronaut knows. So I have information from 2 years ago, but presently I'm off the hook. I don't know.
The previous crews were chosen, but not this particular one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's one from Mark. What methods are there for astronauts and cosmonauts to get used to Earth's gravity after being in space for a long time?
Well, I guess I'll answer that one. To get used to Earth's gravity after being in space for a long time is really just being in Earth's gravity. So once you land, our rescue force colleagues, they'll pull us out of the capsule and set you down. And initially, it's, oh my gosh, this telephone that I'm calling my family in is so heavy, and how did I possibly lift this procedure checklist? It's so heavy. And then eventually it gets lighter and lighter. So really just being in Earth's gravity is the way we readapt to it. And it takes a few weeks, but I will tell you, by the time we land back in Houston 24 hours later, most people are able to walk by themselves off the airplane. And within a week or so, people can kind of get around. We can't drive for 2 weeks. But after that 2-week period, if you see folks are just around, you wouldn't even know that, like you saw Nick Hague right now in the shopping center, you wouldn't know that he just got back from space a month ago or something like this. So it happens pretty quickly, and our strength and conditioning team has a great plan for readaptation, and it works really well.
I'll turn that question around a little bit. Is there any way that you're getting ready to adapt as easily as possible to microgravity?
Well, we don't have any special trainings, so it's just some recommendations from the experienced crew members or experienced our colleagues who just gave us some recommendations, like do not shake your head, do not do first things really quickly. So just first time try to enjoy this zero gravity and just relax. So and then it will be easy for you and you can do what you want. But so we have some training during the parabolic flight on the airplane. So but this is the training when we had the cosmonaut course class or in a group preparation. When you assign a crew, it's kind of dangerous training, and all specialists try to avoid some high danger situations. So it's like parachute jumping, you know, like pilot training. So to minimize this risk, because a lot of people work for our space flight and nobody wants to stop right before the launch. So
I have a little bit to add. He jogged my memory on the getting used to gravity or zero gravity on launch day, and it was a different experience for me on the shuttle versus the Soyuz with a short rendezvous profile. In that kind of 6-hour period, you're so busy inside the capsule on my second flight where you almost didn't think about that you were in weightlessness, because you're still inside the tiny Soyuz, you're still strapped to your seat, maybe your pencil floats, but you're focused on all of these parameters in front of you and your checklist. And it wasn't until we docked, we unstrapped, we opened hatches before I really truly thought about the weightlessness aspect of it. Now it's true, right after the engine's cut off, the little toy hangs on the string and floats around, and you see that and you know you're in weightlessness and you smile and wave to the camera, but it's very, very busy in that short profile, and once you enter the space station, you're like, oh my gosh, here we are, this is so cool. But yeah.
Go ahead.
Вообще говоря, этот вопрос очень интересен как повод для того, чтобы удивиться, как наш организм удивительно устроен, как легко он приспосабливается как в одну, так и в другую сторону. Может быть, это как раз повод для будущих исследований.
Actually, this is a great question because it shows us how easily our body is adaptable in both directions. And actually, that's a good research topic for future investigations, just to see how easily we adapt both to microgravity and to returning back to Earth.
I wish you good, easy adaptation in both directions. I think we've got a follow-up question here from Mark.
Thank you again. Mark Rowe from Aviation Week. I want to go back to some of the discussion very early. When the three of you arrive at the station, is it possible that it could just be the three of you all the way until the end of your mission in October if commercial crew has some more milestones to reach, or will you be joined by others on a Russian launch? And Chris, I understand you're the last one currently with a seat that NASA has reserved or purchased from Russia, and I just want, if you have any special sense of what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, so Mark, you're on to what we're preparing for, and that is a 6-month duration where it's just the three of us. So why we're getting lots of extra training as specialist levels for Andrei and Nikolai and on all the U.S. side equipment. By the plan, we have a short handover period with the previous Soyuz, so a couple days or a week or whatever it sorts itself out to be. So we'll 9 days, I guess, 9 days by the plan today, and so we'll overlap there. But then we're just the three of us until we undock, and with luck we'll have, like I mentioned earlier, with luck we'll have a commercial crew, whichever one it is, who knows, but we'll have some visitors, and we'll be excited for that. But we're also ready operationally, mentally, all that prepared to just be the three of us on the space station, which will be a change in operations, really, if you think about it, from what we're used to today, where we're 6 people. The station, it's still a mechanical system, so it has its hiccups, but we've pretty much flushed those hiccups out really well, and we can focus intently on what the goal is, and that's to do science and research, and we can do a lot of it with all those available crew hours. There'll be less available crew hours because you still have to devote your baseline number of hours per week or whatever to keeping the thing running. So it'll be slightly a change in philosophy on how we manage crew time, but more or less, the goal is still the same, is to maximize science hours and research, and we'll do our best to do that. Now, the second part of your question is, as it stands right now, I'm the last American to have a seat on a Soyuz, and I'm aware that maybe there's some discussion about future seats. I don't know anything about it on a personal level, but we're ready for whatever unfolds. I don't really have any super insightful comments about being the last person. I care about that as much as I care about being the 500th person in space, which is pretty low.
All right, and I think another follow-up from Robert.
Hi, thanks. Just to ask the flip side of that, is there a scenario where you would potentially end up with 8 people aboard the space station with an overlap between Boeing's crew and the 2-person SpaceX crew? Or have you been told those won't conflict?
You're kind of getting into probability and statistics. Is it possible? Yeah, maybe. Is it likely? No. So I think they would, when push comes to shove, kind of deconflict the visiting vehicles. I'd have to check my facts, but I think there's restrictions on which ports they can all dock to, so that might limit the number of people that we have at one time.
7, I think. So maximum, it's because of this redocking process.
Yeah, and which ports they can go to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
7.
All right, well, I think that is all the questions we have time for, so we'll wrap it up there. But as we mentioned a little bit earlier, you do want to stay tuned to NASA TV for the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer briefing that is coming up on Tuesday. That will be at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll have a couple of briefings for you to line up what all you can expect from those spacewalks that are coming up. The first one, which is scheduled for November 15th. And you can check out these, or keep up with these guys as they are going through their training on social media for Chris at astro_seal on Instagram. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.